this new fire lay that I'm real excited to share with everybody, because when I saw it, I go, "Rob, is this going to work?" Sure.
First of all, as you probably know, there are as many different ways to lay a fire as there are people to show you how to do it.
I'll take it.
I have a fireplace in my house like Tom does. I have a lot of split wood, and I burn in the fireplace all year long. And I wanted a simple and reliable way to make a fire in the fireplace. And it turns out that it works in the woods as well. Now, I have split wood.
There we go.
And basically, these are quarter pieces of logs that I have faced about a hand width apart. Face to face, these the flat faces are touching each other. And in here I have some tinder. In this case, it's just crumpled up paper. And the second figure.
Second one is the blue one, I think, with this one.
The sticks on top.
This?
Yeah, well, this one didn't come out quite so good. And what you do is you just lay some sticks across the top. Now, this could be any kind of sticks. This is basically your kindling. I just had some split wood that was about the size of my little finger. And as you can see, it doesn't take very much. And so one of the advantages of this fire lay, and there are several, is that it doesn't take much tinder and it doesn't take much kindling to get it going. So just a small handful of tinder and kindling can light these massive logs.
So now
So once you've done that, then you lay another log on top of all that, and you're ready to go. And essentially what happens is you get your source of fire. It could be a coal, it could be anything, and you stick it on one end so that you have plenty of room on one side, and you stick it on one end, it catches the tinder. The tinder then starts to burn, and it catches the two faces.
So your hand was in one of the
Yeah,
picture.
it catches the two faces of these logs because they're close enough they can form the heat. And then what happens is the fire then moves along the faces of these logs because they're close enough to reflect the heat, and starts burning these logs, or these little tinder sticks, as you can see here. And then at some point, one of them or two of them, it's going to burn through and the log drops. That's why it's called a drop log fire. And eventually, of course, the whole thing will catch fire, and this top log will drop down in between the other two logs. And what you get in the process, you get a really beautiful fire that's self-managing. You don't have to keep feeding it. So this will go these logs like this will go anywhere from 2 to 4 hours without any maintenance whatsoever. And as the top log burns down into coals, what you have left then is these two side ones left with a bunch of coals in the middle, and guess what? You throw a little grate on top of that, and then you're starting to cook.
Can you explain what tinder is again for those people that haven't joined us before?
Yeah. Fuel, well, any fire requires 3 ingredients, right? It requires fuel, requires oxygen, and requires heat. Now, fuel in particular has 3 grades. We call it tinder, which is the finest material, something like a bird's nest, something like this. This is jute, right?
Right.
Something,
it looks just like the inner bark of a cedar tree, too.
Right.
Or tulip poplar.
Right. That's right. Inner barks of trees. You can mix that in with something like cattail down or thistle down. And the idea is to go from smaller, very small diameter fibers to larger and larger diameter fibers. And then you get to sticks that are the size of your little finger maybe, or smaller. These would be considered kindling. So the heat from the burning tinder then catches this, the next layer up, and then you go to sticks that are the size of your finger, then the size of your wrist, and you finally get to something like this, which you would probably call fuel at that point. Tinder, kindling, and fuel. Different grades.
Right here?
Yeah, let's put one together.
Just where they can see it better on the floor or on the table here. Sure.
Doesn't matter. Wherever you want to do it.
Sit on the floor. Yeah. You're the fireman.
Now, I'm using split wood, but as I said, it will work with round logs as well. So you can just take your saw into the woods and saw logs that are about this diameter, and it'll still work. So you want to put these parallel and about, I don't know, maybe 3 fingers apart. And that spacing is rather critical, because if it's too close, you don't get enough air. But if it's not close enough, you don't get enough heat reflected.
Can you turn it this way so we can see that? Perfect. Yeah,
Something like that.
that's great. Thank you.
Okay?
A little bit wider than a quarter, but about,
Yeah. Something like 2 or 3 fingers.
yeah, my fingers. 2 fingers on mine. 3's a little wide.
Okay, good.
Okay, now the next thing you want to do is put in some tinder, and as I've found, that you don't have to fill up this whole space with tinder. You just need to put some at the end, and you put it at the end because it's more convenient to come in here with your coal, like Tom had a few minutes ago, or a match or anything else. Any source of ignition, you stick it right here, and then this will flame up. It'll catch these 2 faces on fire, and that fire will then naturally travel down the rest of the space. Now what you do is you fill in with some small sticks. The more you have, the better, of course. But I found that you could get away, under the right conditions, you can get away with just 2 fat sticks, amazingly enough. If you can get the faces of these 2 logs to...
I like to stack the deck in my favor. So if you can get more sticks, depends on the situation, how bad you need this fire.
Exactly. So you want to have most of this right over top of your tinder so that it's going, and you would continue like that down to the rest, and then you put 2 relatively larger ones at the end like this. Now why you do that is because these naturally are going to take longer to burn through. And what you want is the faces of these 2 base logs to be on fire and to be cooking this guy on top, so that by the time these guys, these supports burn through, this will be on fire, these will be on fire, this drops right down inside there, and then you have a beautiful little self-feeding fire that will eventually give you a nice bed of coals between these 2 supports, and you lay your fire grill on top of that and you cook away.
Pretty cool.
And even if you're not going to cook, I do this all the time, simply because it makes a beautiful fire and I don't have to mess with it. I light it, walk away, 4 hours later, it's done.
Pretty slick. I have the fireplace set up. Hate to put you on the spot though, but let's see if we can get it going in here. All right. I'll give you a hand. And now we could have started this with a coal, but we're going to use the old Bic lighter trick. Rob, do the honors.
All right, keep your fingers crossed. Nothing ever works when you're demonstrating, right?
Especially indoors.
Take it the flues open, all right?
Flue's open. A lot of times if the fire's struggling, you need to add oxygen, so sometimes you need to just blow on it a little bit.
You know that because it smokes.
So for your video contest, it's not about the fastest then?
It's not really about the fastest, it's an overall. If somebody under 12 has help and they're smooth with it and it's the overall feel of it. So you need to get a coal and you need to blow that coal into flame, and then you need to have some kind of little fire lay there. It could be Rob's, it could be a teepee fire lay, it could be any kind of fire lay, but we want to see you transfer it into that. So it's kind of a all-encompassing competition, because in a real-life situation, just getting a coal isn't enough. You need to transfer that into a fire. Now, I'm not sure if people know that smoke is just unburnt wood. That's why when you have smoke, and a flame comes up, it actually burns the smoke.
And if there's too much, it means there's not enough oxygen.
You got it. Now, we're a little enclosed here.
The key here is that the 2 faces of those logs that are flat, parallel to each other, need to catch fire for this to work. If it's too far apart and that doesn't happen, then you're going to have problems.
And just from doing fire for 30 years, Rob, I can see that this is starting to catch.
Mm-hmm. And I can see from here the camera angle isn't seeing it, but there's flames on the facing sides of those logs. And that's what you need, and that's what. And you notice you don't have to fill this all up with anything. It'll migrate down there by itself. So you conserve on your tinder and kindling if you're in short supply. Yeah, now you can see it, right?
Yep. There's something just mesmerizing about a fire, you know?
Yeah.
Especially in the fall.
It's something that everybody can relate to.
Yep. That's why in classes I always ask the question, fire is important, but what's the most important thing a fire is going to do for you in a survival situation? So I asked that question out there. Somebody want to type in, what's the most important thing a fire is going to do for you in a survival situation? Let's see if we can get some interaction with the people out there.
Let's hear that. That's good.
While we're watching the fire.
Hint, hint.
No one's writing in. Come on, you know what's the most important thing. Will we get the messages on here? Yeah, we will. Okay. No one knows what the most important thing is?
Calmus.
Who?
Calmus. Weston.
Calmness. We have a winner on the very first. It's going to calm you down. Who?
Weston Roberts.
Weston.
Psychological benefits.
Okay, we'll sit down here. Rob, I think you got a success here.
Well, there you go. That's the start. It looks like an artificial fire now. It's so pretty.
It does.
It's very symmetrical and balanced, and you don't have to fiddle with it.
And literally, how long did it take you to pick up that handful of sticks? A minute or two?
That's the beauty of this firelight, because literally a handful of sticks this big. How long is it? You can get that sitting on the ground, just rushing around.
Now, the only thing is those two you put down that are split. And if you have an axe or any kind of cutting tool,
Or you can just baton your knife.
Yeah.
So I've found that this size of log is good. You can use slightly smaller logs. If you get much smaller, if you get them this size of your wrist, I've tried to do that. It's not enough fuel to make this work real well.
Okay.
So I haven't had good success, but I've had good success with this size and with logs as big as this. But that might be difficult to split in the woods if you don't have an axe.
Right.
And again, like I said, you can do this with logs this size that are round. You can do it exactly the same way. If they're dry enough, it'll work.
You don't have to split them at all.
You won't have to split them. If you do, I think it's a little more sure that you'll get it.
Right.
But I've done it without splitting them.
Again, I want to thank our international viewers, Ruth, and thank you all for joining us.